Good evening and welcome. There may be just a few people here I don't know. So just in case, I'm Stephanie Reyes-Tuccio, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Educational Partnerships and proud Executive Director of the Center for Educational Partnerships. So whether you are from CFEP, a current or former staffer, a philanthropic, corporate, or nonprofit partner, or a fellow educator, you know that this work that we do together is grounded in friendship, in trust, and mutual respect. So I am tremendously honored that each and every one of you made time to come here and join us tonight and be part of what we call the CFEP family. So thank you. Before we start our program, I'd like to recognize just a few special guests here tonight. But know that this place is kind of a veritable who's who right now. So there's a lot of folks that are incredibly important in their fields who we won't have time to mention because we would be here all night. But just a couple people who are critical to this event. I'd like to welcome our Chancellor, Howard Gillman. Our Provost, Hal Stern. Dean Richard Arum. Trustees from the UCI Foundation Board. He will be here if he's not right now soon. Provost Emeritus Dennis Galagani. And UCSD Associate Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Professor of Education, and incoming Dean for the UCI School of Education, Francis Contreras. And Joanne and Ancorino Lara, the family of Assistant Vice Chancellor Emeritus Juan Francisco Lara. So in most programs, we say a few thank yous and then we just move on to the main event. But tonight, it is about thank yous and remembering. That is the main event. This event tonight and the stories that I hope you had a chance to read that were so lovingly collected and curated and written, and this event tonight that we started planning when we were in complete lockdown, working on blind faith that we would be able to have an event like this tonight. That 4 individuals really made this happen, and so I want to name each of them individually and then give them a round of applause. And that is Santana Ruiz, Deputy Director, CFEP. That's okay. We can just keep clapping. Patricia Anderson, Assistant Director, CFEP. Jennifer Stamison, Director of Development, UCI School of Education. And Ryan Hodkowski, Director of Communications, UCI School of Education. We absolutely couldn't have done this without them. So 25 years ago, something very special was born. This center, dedicated to the idea that every young person, regardless of income, zip code, racial or ethnic background, or immigration status, deserves access to a high-quality education and the opportunity to go to college, with all the privileges, security, and opportunity to fulfill potential that we know, those of us in this outdoor room, we know college uniquely affords. Of course, we know there are many practical reasons to support this work. We know that higher levels of education are correlated with lower levels of crime, homelessness, poverty, higher tax revenue. But I know that the people in this room are guided additionally, and maybe even primarily, by something else. And that's the idea that education is a human right, and that we are not content to enjoy its privileges and stand by and watch it being unfairly denied to others. We believe that we can be part of that solution. And for 25 years, we have been part of that solution. For hundreds of thousands of students and the millions of people that they touch, we have made a difference that is beyond measure. And that is worth all of us gathering here tonight. So let's get started. Howard Gillman was appointed by the University of California Board of Regents to become UCI's 6th Chancellor in 2014. He's an award-winning scholar and teacher of the American Constitution and the Supreme Court. Under Chancellor Gillman's leadership, UCI has accelerated its rise among globally preeminent research universities. We've been ranked in the top 10 of all public research universities in the nation by U.S. News & World Report, and we've become one of the rare AAU research institutions that is also a Hispanic-serving institution. We've doubled its annual philanthropic fundraising to an all-time high, furthered its national leadership in sustainable practices, and twice in a row now, for its commitment to social mobility, UCI has topped the New York Times College Access Index of U.S. universities doing the most for the American dream. You all may know these important facts, but what you may not know is how deep and authentic his commitment is to the work that we do. I learned that very shortly after he became chancellor. Those of us who work at a university know that the chancellor's time is gold. Because, of course, everyone wants him to be everywhere all the time, and there's only one of him to go around. So it's not easy to get the chancellor to come to an event. There's a process and a team and a vetting to make his calendar, understandably. So imagine my surprise when, right after he became chancellor, I received a call from the chancellor's office asking me if there were any programs that summer for high school students or community college students that he could come and visit and come talk to the students. I was surprised, but of course I had programs, and so he came to several programs that summer, and he shared his story of being a first-generation college student, and he made them believe that UCI and the University of California belonged to them, was theirs by virtue of their being Californians. He has spoken to many, many students since then. And his recognition of the value of this work and his championing of the Center for Educational Partnerships in so many different ways, from our beautiful space to my position to endless support, his championing and recognition has really been critical to the success that we are celebrating here tonight, and I want to honor that. So please welcome Chancellor Gillman to the stage.
It's way too generous, but let me respond by saying let's hear it for Stephanie. I mean, she's encouraging you to applaud everybody else. Why not Stephanie? I am just so thrilled and honored to be here to join you for this celebration of one of UCI's most important centers, advancing one of the most important missions that we have here at the university, without question. So let me give you the way that I think of why this is important. I'm a bit of a historian, and so I promise not to go back 2,000 years, but and it shouldn't take too long for me to do this. But throughout most of American history, and still too often today, higher education was designed to be a privilege for the privileged, for the elites and the well-connected. Higher education was defined more by who was excluded than by how many were served. Its social function throughout most of our history was about the production and maintenance of hierarchy rather than the creation of meaningful opportunity for all. And yes, I know that there are still too many places even today where that's true. In principle, the creation of the concept of a land-grant university during the Civil War with the passage of the Morrill Act was intended to make higher education more available to more people. And in California, the land grant provided the state with the funds to establish a public university, and it turned out to be a good public university, giving rise to the creation of the University of California in 1868. It was a good step and an important reimagining of the point of higher education, but still, that step alone did not open the doors wide enough. As late as 1950, only 7% of men and 5% of women in the United States completed four-year college degrees. In California, this began to change when leaders appreciated that the baby boom generation would create a much larger demand for college degrees. And so the master plan of California higher education was approved by the regents in principle and then passed into state law in 1960. And some years earlier, the University of California committed itself to expanding the number of campuses so that the doors to higher education would be open a bit wider. And one of those newly envisioned campuses was to be located on the rolling hills of the Irvine Ranch. UC Irvine, named after the ranch rather than a city because the city would not come into existence for another 5 years, was created specially to ensure that higher education moved from a model of the reproduction of privilege to a model of advancing a true opportunity society. That is, to make the American dream more real for more people. It's why we're still so proud, as Stephanie said, that we were twice declared by the New York Times to be the #1 top college or university in the US doing the most for the American dream. And that should still be an applause line every time a chancellor says it. Just let it sink in, right? You take it for granted, but come on. For a while in our history, we thought it would be enough for us to open our doors wider and then see who showed up. That's more than most universities did. But because the mission of serving all the people was so deeply encoded into our DNA, it became clear about a quarter century ago that it wasn't enough just a grand admission. Too many people were still being left behind. We had to help them make it to the door. And that required a bold, innovative, and inspirational vision to commit this campus to educational partnerships with our surrounding communities. And today, the programs of the Center for Educational Partnerships, supported by an amazing staff under the transformational leadership of Stephanie, nurtured and led by our partners, and made possible by the goodwill of our donors and the communities we serve, that's made it possible for us to even be more true to our founding mission, to the reason why we were created in the first place. And all of us who believe so much in the glory and importance of our mission, our founding mission, owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to everyone associated with the center and with its success. Because we know the success of the center is only possible because of our amazing supporters and collaborators. K through 12 schools, community colleges, four-year institutions, corporate partners, nonprofit and community organizations, donors, families, and students have all played vital roles in the successes we've achieved together on behalf of the people of California and especially the students who deserve a chance. Together, then, we mark 25 years, a quarter century, of the remarkable programs that nurture student success, that remove barriers and set young people on a path to achieve their own American dream. But today also marks the start of the next 25 years of this noble work, and I look forward to your continued participation in it and in the life of this university. And now it is my pleasure to introduce my predecessor as Chancellor of UCI and the current President of the University of California, Dr. Michael V. Drake, for some recorded remarks.
I'm honored to join you today to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the UC Irvine Center for Educational Partnerships. Over the past quarter century, the center's innovative programs have supported countless students and teachers while fostering academic achievement and educational equity. Dedicated CFEP leaders and staff have worked to grow college readiness and access at every level, creating opportunities for generations of California students. During my 9 years as Chancellor of UC Irvine, I was proud to champion the center's work and its deep impact, from transfer prep to the Lewis Stokes California Alliance for Minority Participation Program, to SAGE Scholars, and beyond. CFEP has always recognized that all students should have access to a world-class education. Its work to support students and teachers throughout their educational journeys has made a difference in countless lives. This commitment to teaching and public service is at the heart of the university's mission. Dr. Stephanie Reyes-Tuccio has expanded on the vision and legacy of our dear friend and CFEP founding director, Juan Francisco Lara, helping the center to thrive and growing its impact. Thank you, Stephanie, for your leadership and dedication to CFEP and all the people it serves. Finally, congratulations to all of the center's leaders and staff, as well as the many students and graduates who have benefited from CFEP programs as you mark this 25-year milestone. You have so much to be proud of. Thank you. And fiat lux.
Well, thank you, Chancellor Gillman and President Drake. So the next person I want to introduce is Yvette Gullatt, who serves as Vice President for Graduate and Undergraduate Affairs, Vice Provost for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and the Chief Diversity Officer for the University of California System. Wait for this. She oversees system-wide programs, services, and initiatives that maximize baccalaureate and graduate degree attainment, including our work of outreach and educational partnerships, but also student affairs, financial aid, undergraduate admissions, graduate studies, teacher education, and teacher professional development, and something that's grown a little bit recently, online education. One woman, many jobs. As Chief Diversity Officer for the university, she leads essential efforts to further UCI's aspirations as a diverse and inclusive institution by fostering equitable campus climates for students, staff, and faculty. I've known Vice Provost Gullatt for about a decade, since I first became director of CFEP, and she was working in our work, and we bonded because we were both former PhDs in the humanities who found our way to this work. In those early years, the leadership of her unit, which at that point was a much smaller unit, was usually staffed by rotating faculty who were researchers in some topic that aligned with this work that hundreds of us do across the system. And then she became vice provost. And we wondered, what would change now that we had a leader who was both deeply knowledgeable about the research and the theory of our work, but had also been actively engaged in that work for decades? The answer is a lot changes. A professional learning community across the system is created for those of us who do this work and supported. Long traditions of practices and systems and organizational structures that are no longer effective are changed. Communication and consultation does not just flow down, but also flows up. And decisions are made that are informed, thoughtful, and grounded in an understanding of the realities of the work that we do. And we have a deeply knowledgeable and tireless advocate at the highest level who has effected real progress towards creating the UC that we all desire, a UC that reflects the students in the state of California. At this point, the majority of UC campuses are Hispanic-serving institutions. That did not happen by accident. And in 2021, the UC admitted its largest and most diverse class in history. Please welcome Vice Provost Yvette Gullatt.
Who is that person? Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. It's really wonderful to be able to join you for this quarter century of excellent work and outstanding impact in the community. So if you only take away one thing from what I say this evening, I hope it's this: that the UCI Center for Educational Partnerships has influenced UC culture and practice across the system and leadership across higher education in California for the better. So a long time ago, and in a place far away, also known as Oakland, and in the aftermath of Proposition 209, UC campuses had the opportunity to showcase innovative approaches for improving college opportunity for more students from underrepresented groups who are first generation, Pell Grant recipients, and who were low income. These showcase opportunities weren't just sharing best practices Oh, no, no, no. They were tied to money. So the best practices were going to be rewarded. Now, back then, I was on a campus, and that campus was competing for some of those funds. But I will tell you today, I was as impressed with UCI's approach now as I was then. Because you see, UCI had thought about partnership in a deeper way than other campuses had. They had thought about programs that support K-12 and community college students, but they had also thought deeply about the role that they could play in systemic change, in partnerships that could change the status quo of student opportunity. And in doing that, the CFEP impacted how other campuses approach partnership, not just as a discrete set of programs and interventions operating in a school or a district, but as a collaborative strategy for collective impact, one that was based in the best research about what works. And since that time, UCI has been a leader among the campuses, influencing how other campuses collaborate in their regions. Over those 25 years, those collaborations and partnerships conceived of and nurtured through the CFEP here at Irvine are evidence, not just of the work that goes into making and growing connections, and I'm sure everyone here can agree that is a lot of hard work, but also the realization of a broader vision, one that draws on the threads of those various partnerships to strengthen the fabric of the entire educational net. The hope being that we don't let students fall through the cracks, that we catch them and we get them on track, or in some cases, we get them back on track if necessary, and that they achieve college and beyond. They become more informed contributors to their local communities and to the state of California. Well, while all this work is going on, all this planning and implementing, and my favorite word, administrating, something else was also happening here. There were leaders being created. What was started as an outgrowth of the common sense notion that together we're stronger has shown itself to be a laboratory for the growth of leaders from within the university, talented people who are motivated by hopeful possibilities of the principles of diversity, inclusion, and equity, how that might cause UC to evolve, and how those transformational improvements might ripple out into the higher education community. And we need the CFEP and the leaders it creates now more than ever, because these last 19 months have forced us to be creative and lead in ways that we did not know that we could. This has been a strange, I'm going to be honest, this is my first time out of my dining room since March 2020. This has been such a time of upheaval, of interruption, of uncertainty. But my sense is that in some ways it's brought out the best of us. It's highlighted our priorities, right? Collaboration, bold action, and fearlessness in the face of hard work. So as we hopefully move out of this pandemic, there are big questions to resolve about equity and opportunity, diversity and who is positioned to make decisions, and the inclusion of the full range of California students in our system. There are both challenges in this recovery, but there are also opportunities. So recovering through what I'm calling equitable leadership of the type that we see here at the CFEP, it's going to mean working even harder to dismantle structural barriers that we create that can result in less access and opportunity for those who need it the most. So I want to share 3 areas where I think we have great opportunity to advance this kind of recovery through equitable leadership. First, we have to address inequities in access to rigorous curriculum. As the pandemic unfolded, students were unable, for example, to sit for standardized tests. At the same time, the university was grappling with the question of whether those tests exacerbated inequities in access for prospective students from underrepresented groups. So the pandemic, in other words, accelerated our review of our own requirements and afforded the university the opportunity to move beyond tests as components of our admissions criteria. And so the result, as Dr. Reyes-Tuccio said, is we admitted the largest, most accomplished, and most diverse class in the university's history. But those of us here know that the more pervasive inequity is not standardized tests. Moving beyond standardized tests is important, but it's arguably insufficient for true equity. And their absence makes strong partnerships with schools of the type that are exemplified by the CFEP even more important. In fact, this change in admissions policy creates additional pressure to address other drivers of disparate access: teacher quality, educator bias, access to coursework and academic preparation opportunities, access to high-quality academic advising and timely information, among many, many others. Second, we have to embrace a future with new educational models. The opportunity before us is to ensure that what matters most for student success results from equitable access and opportunity for curricular rigor. Students are going to need more high-quality courses, and they're going to need those opportunities available for them in all kinds of ways. So support for teachers, their training and their professional development, and work with schools to center instructional resilience and digital inclusion will be an increasingly important area of work to keep for us, to keep our teachers teaching, keep our students learning when seismic shifts like a pandemic occur. The pandemic has loosened the constraints on what is acceptable for education, and educational technology is changing that educational experience. It's requiring both in-person and digital engagement strategies, not just for our academic courses, but for all of the preparatory and information needs that students need to matriculate to the university as freshmen as transfers. The immediate shift that schools made last year to transition from in-person to online and remote formats required a new kind of know-how for technical platforms and capabilities. But most importantly, it surfaced real concerns about equitable access to technology and digital inclusion. The CFEP, positioned as it is within the campus research enterprise and as a result of its long-standing focus on the importance of data-driven insights, is uniquely situated to bring research and analysis to bear on what intentional strategies and investments are needed to reduce and eliminate those historical institutional instructional barriers to access and use of educational technology. Finally, I want to surface an area of opportunity that is increased in importance if we're to move forward through equitable leadership, and that is student basic needs as a component of our P20 work. During this pandemic, many students across the P20 continuum found themselves without an ecosystem of financial stability, healthy and sufficient food, safe and secure and adequate housing, access to health care to promote their physical and their mental well-being, things that are at a minimum necessary to support students in their holistic experience to and through college. The pandemic challenged us to examine, refine, and advocate for changes in federal, state, and university policy that determine how much money students have to take care of themselves while in college. At the same time, we can do more as a P20 community to improve student and educator awareness at the K-12 and community college levels, as early and consistently as possible, of the resources available to students and to destigmatize basic needs assistance. The CFEP and its counterparts across the system are critical for this early awareness and preparation. Pell Grant recipients comprise more than 35% of UC's undergraduate student body, and they are the most vulnerable to food and housing insecurity. And as you all know, low-income students who are the first in their families to attend college are more likely to lack family support to navigate that system. A proactive, preventive approach to basic needs will ultimately decrease the need for emergency resources. So how do we keep up this momentum and move forward from here? We look for strategies. We look for ideas that prompt hope. We look for leaders who are going to add the fuel to the push for equity and who are going to create the circumstances for transformation across education. So building on its 25 years of excellence, this center, long and exemplar from the earliest days of how you get this done, is going to be a primary source for such innovation and such leadership. So I have great confidence in the ability of Irvine CFEP to continue to set standards as it heads into its second quarter century. So I want to thank you for your leadership and thank you for everything that you do on behalf of the students in the state of California.
Well, if I hadn't already chosen this as my life's work, that speech would have gotten me. So thank you. That was inspiring and really important to shed light on the things that we've been working on, that we've been seeing in our schools and our students for the last year and a half have made what we saw the past 20 years seem like not as difficult. So I appreciate that rousing call to action. So as we move on, I'll share that I have to start with a story because I know everyone so personally in this room that I have to kind of go off script a little bit. So about 5 years ago, new to UCI, Dean of the School of Education, Richard Arum, and a faculty member and his assistant dean, asked to meet with me to learn about CFEP. He had big plans for the still young school. He wanted to become a top 10 school, which sounded like an audacious goal. He wanted to diversify the school faculty, staff, and graduate students. He wanted to deepen the relationships with the schools and communities that CFEP works in. And he wanted to build a truly engaged school of education that really, truly was part of transforming the educational experience of underserved students. The truth is, I was a little skeptical. He didn't have me at hello. But it only took a few conversations to see that this was a person of great integrity and great vision, and that he could make it happen. And I became excited by the possibilities of what we could do together for the university, for the school, and for the CFEP, and that we would all benefit. It was the best decision I ever made, joining his team and the School of Education. And being able to work with him has been one of the great joys of my professional career. So Dean Arum was recruited from NYU originally to lead our still young School of Education into its next phase. He's best known for his research on student learning, school discipline, race, and inequality. His book, Aspiring Adults Adrift, has won international acclaim. And because of his work, he is considered one of the nation's most influential scholars in the field of educational policy and practice. While in New York, Dean Arum was part of founding the New York City Research Alliance for Public Schools, bringing together diverse constituencies of academic faculty with school leaders and public officials to positively affect New York City public schools. He has led the school in a remarkable era of tremendous growth in reputation and activities. The School of Education is now the top-ranked school at the University of California, Irvine. Yes, let's just give that a hand. It is the number 7 public school of education in the United States with over, with over $100 million right now currently in active research grants. It is a powerhouse, and it is because of him. So please join me in welcoming Dean Arum to the stage.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I'm going to have to contradict you on two scores. First of all, the idea for bringing these units together, it was a joint idea jointly created, and so my hat's off to your wisdom for seeing that vision, and of course also the accomplishments of a unit as a whole go well beyond any individual who has to stand before a podium and address a crowd. So I wanted to say 3 short things, and then I'll introduce a video. The first thing is what a pleasure it has been for me to work with Stephanie, Santana, the staff at the Center for Educational Partnerships over the past years here. I've benefited so much from that. I've learned so much from it. It's deepened my own work, and I'm deeply grateful for that. The second thing I wanted to share with the audience today is one of the things I worried about. As Stephanie mentioned, I'm stepping down from being a dean to do this work, to work in the community at the Samueli Academy, at the Anaheim school system in Santa Ana. I'm leaning in and deepening my commitment to this work, but one of the things you worry about when you step down is what happens if the new leader doesn't believe in this work and doesn't care and invest in this work. And I want to share with you today that I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that because we recruited this great new dean to come join us, Frances Contreras, who 2 months prior to serving, while she's juggling work and family, here she is. And as everyone knows who does this kind of work, words are cheap. Watch what people do, and here she is. So we're in good hands. The last thing I want to say before the video is this, that we have an opportunity here that's unique to be transformative for the region, transformative for our community. Why? Because we have the combination of these relationships, these partnerships that were built not overnight, they were built out over 25 years, these deep connections and partnerships with our community. And you couple that now with this academic capacity that Stephanie mentioned, that you have this unit that has amassed all this research capacity. We're not just ranked in the top 7 public school of education in the country. We're going to be the top 5 public school of education, I think, this spring. But the research activity that's happening in the School of Education equals the research activity in the School of Social Science, the School of Social Ecology, the School of Humanities, the School of Arts, the Business School, the Law School combined. Our 35 faculty last year. We have the capacity, we have the relationships. We're poised to make a transformative difference in this community, and if we all come together around that goal, it's going to happen. And so with that, I'm going to turn to play one more video for you, which is a little bit of some of the faculty from the School of Education, the doctoral students, and staff at Center for Educational Partnership saying just a few words about this work.
I'm Stephanie Reyes-Tuccio, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Educational Partnerships. For the past 25 years, the UCI Center for Educational Partnerships has led hundreds of programs, grants, and initiatives in the pursuit of educational equity. Collectively, the programs focus on everything from early childhood literacy to preparing first-generation STEM students for the PhD and the future professoriate. What may seem wide-ranging to some is guided by a crystal clear mission to us. The ultimate goal of every program in the center is to create the conditions for students from underserved and underrepresented backgrounds to make their dreams of college a reality. This is our North Star mission that will never change. However, the conditions that can stop our students and their dreams do change over time, as does our understanding of those conditions. The pandemic surfaced alarming mental health trends, the impact of systemic racism, a devastating digital divide, and other issues that call for our attention beyond our bread and butter work of guiding students and families in the fundamentals of college preparation and application. So, we continue to learn, grow, and innovate in partnership with faculty across the UCI campus and with the schools and communities we serve. As we reflect on the center's bright past, we also look forward to a brilliant future with optimism and excitement for what is yet to come. Here's just a sampling of the many new projects currently underway.
Hi, my name is Adriana Villavicencio, an assistant professor in the UCI School of Education. UCI Center for Educational Partnerships was one of the primary reasons I joined UCI. As a former leader of a research practice partnership in New York City, I firmly believe in the value of an organization like CFEP for the local community and its long-term impact on the lives of our students. In this period of what some have called a quote-unquote racial reckoning in the United States, I've been studying what it looks like to create anti-racist schools through the professional development of school leaders and teachers, while measuring the impact of that work on the experiences and outcomes of students. I look forward to partnering with CFEP to bring this work to local districts interested in creating classrooms that are culturally and linguistically relevant and schools that embody equity and racial justice.
My name is Dr. Pheather Harris, and I am the director of the California Alliance for Minority Participation program at UCI. My research area of focus is exploring the relationship between faculty engagement and African American STEM persistence. I am the principal investigator of a $3 million, 5-year grant from the National Science Foundation that is designed to address systemic inequities that negatively influence the persistence and retention of African American, Black, and Latinx students in STEM. The main objectives of the grant are to lay a solid foundation of local and national data related to minoritized student STEM persistence and retention, to expose faculty participants to their social and cultural locations and the social and cultural locations of minoritized students, and to modify faculty classroom practices and policies in response to the knowledge gained through the experience. The goal is to ultimately change the culture of STEM so that all students can achieve and maximize their full potential.
Hi, I'm Jenny Wu, a doctoral candidate at UCI School of Education and the creator of award-winning social emotional learning games that are used in homes and schools in 50+ countries. Emotional intelligence can contribute to students' sense of belonging, self-confidence, and adaptive coping skills. And this is particularly impactful in helping first-generation and underrepresented students navigate the imposter syndrome and a lack of connectedness on campus. Last summer, we piloted a culturally responsive emotional intelligence program with at-promise students from Early Academic Outreach Program. We will follow these students to assess post-secondary impact. And moving forward, we plan to embed the program to help students from our partner schools, academic preparation, and summer residential programs transition to UCI successfully.
Hello, my name is Santana Ruiz, and I am the Deputy Director at the Center for Educational Partnerships. As we prepare for the future, I am pleased to announce that CFEP was just awarded a 7-year, $5.2 million Gear Up grant from the U.S. Department of Education to invest in our partnership with Compton Unified School District, Compton College, and local community-based organizations to support the academic achievement of Compton students. This grant will fund collaborative work to improve academic outcomes for students, increase college awareness and preparation among both students and their families, and to measurably raise the students' rate of high school graduation, college enrollment, and college completion. With this new award, the Center for Educational Partnerships is well positioned to continue to impact the lives of the families and communities we will serve for the next 25 years.
Wow. Thank you, Dean Arum, and thank you. It was actually very tough to pick which things we wanted to highlight because there is so much going on right now. My staff, under the pandemic, it was like a hotbed of activity and innovation, and so there's great things yet to come. And what a glorious night this has been. I want to end as I began, with thank yous. First of all, thank you to our speakers who made this event. Thank you very much. And I want to make a special thank you to the CFEP staff, those that are here and those who are not able to join us tonight. If we would have had all of the CFEP staff who have worked here for 25 years who wanted to be at this event, we would have blasted out all COVID restrictions. There's no way that we could have done that. But just rest assured there are people who are in our hearts tonight, and I honor them and I thank them. I also want to give a special thank you to our UCI partners, deans, faculty, leadership, staff, who have allowed us to leverage resources on every corner of this remarkable university to make our work what it is. I want to thank our nonprofit partners, without whom they provide access to students and families that we would never be able to reach without them. I want to thank our school district and community college partners, who we all look at these students as our students. Whether they're at K-12, whether they're at the community college, whether they're coming to UCI, they are all our students, and we work together. I want to thank our four-year institutions, particularly Cal State Fullerton, I have to say, who works with us not as competitors, but as allies in this common purpose. Yes, I see some CSUF folks out there. And I want to thank our corporate partners who fuel internships, scholarships, and provide employment for our students. And I want to thank the philanthropists who are committed not from a professional responsibility, but as a commitment of the heart and the mind. So thank you. We could not do it without any of you. So let's give everybody a round of applause. Okay, now is the best part of the evening, where we get to relax, enjoy, meet new friends and old friends. We get to recognize all the amazing things that we've done together. We get to thank our partners and our friends who have made it possible and traveled this road with us. And we get to recommit ourselves to the next stage of work that we have yet to do. So please raise a glass and enjoy your evening. Thank you so much.